Hey guys, I wanted to talk about the process, build and end results of my latest project, my desk build. First, let me give you a quick overview of the desk and just walk you around it. Desk is built out of 3/4 inch plywood, stained in dark oak. I took inspiration from a design I found online that had a similar sort of X shape. I got one large sliding drawer to hold the keyboard and mouse and the piano. There's also a twin socket fitted in here as well. And on the bottom of them are two small drawers just to hold some extra bits. The main drawer is also on soft closers. Also have a sliding tray for the mixer that sits on, so I can bring it out to a decent mixing position. That is also on soft closing sliders. I'm using a twin monitor setup, one 32-inch Samsung monitor mounted on the wall and one 19-inch HP monitor fitted on the mixer tray. I really like the way this smaller screen matches up perfectly with the mixer. It works as a great virtual mixer. When you're in Pro Tools using the mix window, the faders more or less line up. There are two 19-inch racks either side. Only the right side has 19-inch rack hardware in place to hold my Focusrite Liquid Sour 556. Also a little bit of space to sit my other interface on top. The left side is a custom rack that I made from scratch. This is housing a 4-way USB port extension to my computer, 4 XLR ports that will be connected to the Sapphire interface, and a 3-way extension cable with 4 USB sockets for easy access of power. There's also these two little holes with infrared sensors in them for the lighting around the room. The speakers are sitting on 2 pivoting boards that can be positioned in 3 different locations to give me 3 different spacing options for the best mix position possible. I designed it so when the corner of the speaker plate meets the edge of the rack, it's at exactly 60 degrees, which means that from my mixing position and between the 2 speakers, it'll give me a equilateral triangle mixing position. So first I started putting together an idea of what I wanted my desk to be like, what kind of positions I wanted the screens in, what kind of features I would want on the desks, and what kind of nifty little things might make it a little bit more comfortable to use. Once I had a couple of ideas together, I got straight into Google SketchUp, putting some really basic ideas together, mostly just thinking about the layout. Let me show you around what I eventually ended up with on Google SketchUp. I started off with making each independent item, and then I was playing around with the different sort of layouts, so whether I wanted the screen in the middle or screen on one side and mixer in the middle and so on. I went with the mixer in the middle, so then I ended up with this kind of design, just sort of playing around with different sizes, whether I want the racks either side angled, whether I want them full-size racks or smaller racks. Then I ended up sort of going with something like this, and then playing around with a little bit with the design, which I ended up having like this basically. And then from there I basically took this design and started building the full design, which I was pretty happy with this. I decided to go with 19-inch racks in the end, and also like adding, for example, movable plates or speaker stands so that the speakers aren't just sort of sitting on there, they've got their own dedicated thing. So eventually I ended up with this. This is my full design. I'm really happy with this. There's a lot more detail than it looks in here. I like this kind of almost like X design. I saw a design online that I really liked and took inspiration from that. I've gone with the mixer in the middle, then I added a keyboard tray underneath here, so this again is on sliders at the moment, and added 2 drawers either side, give me a little bit more storage so that I don't have stuff sitting on the desk quite as much. And then I just went through sort of structural things basically, so I added this board on the back. All the holes are kind of strategically placed so that I can route wires through so that everything's kind of like neat as much as possible. And obviously the plug sockets for the main sort of power supplies on the back here. Little spacers and things like that so that the runners have a bit more security on them. Again, movable plates, and then inside here, for example, is you can see I've modelled the XLR connectors, power supply itself, the plug socket, and then there's also the same thing with the USB here to make sure that these support braces are the right distance back. So then basically what I've done is, after I've designed the full desk, I needed to figure out actually how to build it. So what I've done is I just sort of took it in stages, so copied the whole thing and deleted like the mixer, the screens, things like that, so I could see just what I would end up with in terms of build without all the electronics and stuff in place. Then I've gone back through there and stripped everything off the desk and taken out all the components. So this is the shelf, this is the 2 speaker plates, the mixer shelf, the panel that I'm making, and the 2 drawers underneath the desk. Then same thing, but with all the hardware stripped off it, so I can just be left with the wood. And then the same thing, but each of every single piece being sort of what they call exploded. And I've also strategically left all of like these extra lines in place, so I know where everything goes. When I cut them out, I can sort of take that into consideration and maybe even put some markings on there so that it's going to piece together a little bit easier. All of these are labelled and named correctly as well. And then finally, I've taken each of them, flattened them out, and then had a look how they're going to fit onto sheets to try and figure out how much wood I need. So that's the whole design. It's taken a long time to get to this point, but it should mean that I should end up with exactly what I've designed, and it also should be a little bit easier just to cut out all the wood. I can use this all for measurements, and that's it. That's the full design from designing to then reverse engineering it to be able to figure out exactly what kind of cuts I need. So once I had the whole thing together and had a fairly detailed idea of what I was actually building, I then went ahead and ordered all the materials and then got building. So I filmed the whole process on my Instagram story. If you want to see the whole thing, you can head over there. But let me give you just a few highlights from the build. So the wood for my desk has been delivered, so I'm going to start cutting. It's got the first sheet already sort of laid out. I made this kind of easy jig thing to create straight lines with the circular saw. So this is going to be my first cut for the actual proper table, the tabletop of the desk. So all the cutting is done. In total, there is 35 bits here. The next thing I'm doing at the moment is also drilling all the holes for all the cabling to go through. Okay, so now all the cable holes are drilled. I'm going to take a rounding router bit and just round the edges. I'm also gonna, for the top of the table and for a couple of the trays, I'm also gonna round the edges like so, nice and rounded. So I went with a larger rounded bit in the end, and I think that looks pretty good. Needs a bit of a sand. So the next step that I'm gonna do is pilot drill. This is just to help put everything together. So these are the first panels I'm gonna do. So what I've done is, on the model that I made in Google SketchUp, I left all the lines in on where all the other pieces kind of intersected, and I've gone through and just marked out where each of the pilot holes should be to help the placement of them. So now I need to figure out where all these little dots actually go, and then I can just drill them all in and then do exactly the same thing on the other side for these 4 bits that are going to attach to this one board here. Okay, so I think I'm done with all the pilot holes. To give you an idea, there's like 13 holes in this one bit of wood. This is some of my workings out, so you can see just how many holes there are. Same thing on the other side as well. Obviously, for every screw there needs to be a hole for the actual bit of wood and then a hole to receive the screw. Next step is to sand all the bits down. Here's the first 3 components put together. These are the 2 drawers to go underneath the desk. So this is the rack panel. Obviously the little bit braces behind, and that just sits on the back like there, nice and flush. And then I started making this fascia to go over the front. So that just clicks in. And then this whole panel can just screw in and screw out. So if I want to add stuff to it later, or do some wiring on it or whatever, then I can do that. So the main section of the desk is kind of done, looking pretty cool. The rack's in place, and it's pretty structural, pretty strong. There's a couple underneath of it. The keyboard tray is all together. I've also routed and made the drawers flush as well, so those are all nice and neat. Okay, so it's more or less finished. Obviously I haven't painted or stained anything, but everything's kind of in its place. I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, pretty much there. Next step is to sort of finish everything, stain it, paint some of the bits. I'm going to do like black on some bits. So first thing today is painting all of the components that I want black. So it will be the 2 speaker stands, the 2 drawers, the mixer tray, and I'm also going to do the bottom supports of the keyboard tray so that it kind of matches the drawers as well. But basically this is everything. Everything painted black, obviously. And the keyboard tray there. This is my rack panel that I'm building. This is going to house like the lighting units as well. And I've doing the faceplate for that and painting that as well. So here it is, all stained, 2 coats of stain, and everything's pretty much in place. I'm really happy. So the next step is to get my old desk out, which is currently full of crap at the moment. So I'm going to get this out and give it a bit of a clean in here as well. And then put the new desk in and get everything wired up properly. I have started wiring things in as I can, trying to get everything as neat as I can as well. Okay, so the desk is in, and I've just got everything kind of wired up, so I thought I'd show you the wiring before I put it back. One cool little thing I got was these little like screw-on tie things, so I've placed those all around the back here, and it allows everything to like it's as neat as it's going to get really. So here it is, all in place, everything's set up, and I'm really happy. So all in all, it took about 13 or 14 days from inception to the final product, and I'm really happy with the results. To sit behind something every day that I built from scratch and it to be really everything that I wanted is really quite fulfilling. I really do love making things with my hands, and I'm not exactly a carpenter, but if you need some advice on something, then please do reach out. I'll be more than happy to do what I can. The next thing I want to do is a full studio tour of the room that I'm currently in. It's been a really long-term project for me, and I finally got it to a position where I'm pretty happy with everything in here, more or less anyway. So I'm going to do a full tour fairly soon, so keep your eyes out for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.